Hello everyone, this is Darren of GNB Productions, and precisely 1 year ago today, if this comes out on time, Paramount Pictures blessed us with the ever-so-infamous Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And today, I'm here to see whether this movie, a complete year later, still holds up. Now, I'm not going to go into the admittedly rough production this movie had. That old design literally looked like Satan took a shit and spray painted that shit blue. But they noticed that people didn't like it, and they actually delayed the movie to change the design for the absolute better. By the way, if you still don't like the fact that Sonic has blue arms, you really need to get over yourself, man. I, of course, have been a Sonic fan since I was a little kid, and was excited when I heard a movie was announced. But the more news that came out led me to be really hesitant when it comes to my levels of excitement. For things pertaining to our spiky blue friend, I have learned to really manage my levels of excitement. And trust me, I'll save that story for a later date. And was pleasantly surprised that this movie didn't suck the fattest of dog feces like I feared it would. As far as kids' films go, the Sonic movie isn't that bad. As a movie itself, I can understand some of the negativity some people have towards it. Like, the plot is pretty generic, the story beats are very predictable, a small part of the comedy, and I mean a very small part of it, is that standard kids humor schlock, and there are a ton, and I mean a ton, of product placements. Not to mention the pacing of the movie is pretty jarring, and this is the only main gripe I have with the movie, it's that this goes by pretty freaking fast. But Darion, isn't that what Sonic is all about? I can hear most of you asking, but to that I say, shut up, that joke's not funny anymore. What I mean is that the first act seems to be at about fair length, the second act goes on for a bit too long in my opinion, and the third act is literally over in a blink of an eye. Not to mention the plot hole of James Marsden's character Tom being a wanted criminal, and having him walk around in broad daylight with literally nobody recognizing him. And Sonic flosses in this movie. Twice? Yeah, like he flosses twice in this movie. It was okay the first time, it didn't hurt anybody, but why did he have to do it again? In the most heartfelt scene of all places. But with all those negatives aside, I freaking adore this movie. It's not by far a masterpiece, but I was expecting a complete and utter turd ball out of this movie, and was genuinely shocked that it turned out to be good. Let's talk about the characters. I'll save the best ones obviously for last, so let's briefly bring up Longclaw. Longclaw, for those who don't know, was an original character made for this movie, and she's pretty much the Uncle Ben for Sonic in this movie, only meant to die to give Sonic more motivation and drive later on in the film. But I really wish we spent more time to get to know who Longclaw is and how her dynamic and relationship is with Sonic. We literally get 2 minutes of her and we barely know a thing about her. We don't know how she found Sonic, what it was like for her to raise him, what their lives were like back in Green Hill, the island, not the town. Although not a bad character, her inclusion to the plot didn't really hit that hard for me. P.S. I don't think she's dead. Okay, Tom and Maddie. I am so glad that these two aren't a major focus when it comes to overall screen time when compared to Sonic or Eggman. They play the standard human characters for our cartoony protagonists to hang out with, like the guys in the Smurf movies. But in this movie, I found them pretty enjoyable. Tom specifically, I found pretty enjoyable, mostly due to James Marsden's performance. He never takes the spotlight away from Sonic, and is enjoyable on the rare occasion he is the central focus. And his rivalry with Robotnik is freaking hilarious. And hey! Cyclops got himself a convertible! Sonic and Tom's friendship doesn't feel forced either. Like, usually in buddy movies or whatever, there's an inevitable moment where they fight, break up, and then come back together in their hour of need. That surprisingly doesn't happen in this movie. I mean, they argue once, but that's literally that one time, and it gets pretty ignored afterwards. Now, Maddie herself doesn't get a whole lot of screen time, but whenever she's interacting with Tom, it is pretty fun. Neither her or Tom are forced into the story to take time away from Sonic and Eggman, and are pretty fun characters to have around. I love the type of family bond they form with Sonic at the end of the movie, too. Okay, for this particular part, I didn't know how to segue this into the video, but there is a Sonic reference in this movie, and I feel like I, in some weird way, predicted that in my Sonic movie looks underwhelming video I did a while back, so, I suggest you check that one out. Actually, don't check that out. That video is pretty garbage. Well, not garbage, just not as good as the ones that I make now. Okay, back to the video. Now, touching on the other side characters like Maddie's sister, Crazy Carl, and Tom's friend Wade, I actually didn't hate them. I feel about them the same way I do Tom and Maddie. They were pretty enjoyable for the brief time they were all on screen, and I wouldn't be mad if they popped back up in the sequel. Now, the main hero, Sonic the Hedgehog himself. This is one of the best performances and portrayals of Sonic to ever exist. Ben Schwartz gives Sonic such a youthful and kind and energetic personality, and that's something that we're kind of missing from recent games. Every Sonic voice has their own unique take on the character. Like, Drummond perfectly captures the youthfulness of the character, Griffith captures the heartfelt, kind, and caring side of Sonic pretty well, while Roger Craig Smith embodies the arrogant, snarky attitude of Sonic. Ben Schwartz, on the other hand, perfectly tackles all of these. He's youthful and energetic, kind and hopeful, and he has the right balance of confidence and attitude without coming off as a massive dickhead. Sonic's design in this movie is so freaking amazing. He is super expressive, his movements are really fluid, and I can never stop wondering how some of these scenes would look if they kept the old design. And I've heard some people say that they didn't like that Sonic randomly calls Robotnik Eggman because it was, quote, too forced or whatever. Let me say a couple things here. 1. When has Sonic out loud ever heard Robotnik's name? And 2. Sonic, periodically throughout this movie, nicknames people based off of foods. And what do Eggman's drones just so happen to look like? I rest my case. They even say it in the movie. Speaking of which, and the single-handedly best character in this entire movie, Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. Sweet. Hippity hop Jesus, thank you for this character. This has got to be the best version of Robotnik to date, and I'm being serious. I went into this movie expecting Jim Carrey to be the best part about it, and I was not disappointed. Eggman is one of those characters that can be delightfully goofy and freaking terrifying depending on what type of role you want him in. But Jim Carrey's Robotnik is somehow a perfect blend of both. He's just as goofy and wacky as you'd expect Jim Carrey to be, and he's actually pretty intimidating in a few scenes. This version of Eggman is a freaking riot. He sees himself at all times as the smartest man in the room, mostly because he usually is, and he is delightfully condescending to literally everyone around him. I especially love his dynamic with his assistant Agent Stone, and please, Jeff Fowler or whoever's working on the sequel, please bring Agent Stone back. I freaking adore this man's relationship with Robotnik. I also love how you can very subtly see Eggman slowly turning into the crazed mad scientist that we all know from the games, and when he finally lands on the Mushroom Planet, he just finally snaps. Now this may be a bit of a hot take for some of y'all, but Jim Carrey's Robotnik and Ben Schwartz's Sonic are probably the best version of these characters in any adaptation. Now, you can disagree with me on that. It is just my honest opinion. That Tails end credit scene was freaking amazing. But ever since I've seen it, I cannot stop wondering if Sonic was designed the way that he was. I can only imagine what Tails' design looks like. Overall, a complete year later, the Sonic movie is still a joy of an experience. It's not the perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I consider it worth the watch. If you're a Sonic fan, you will definitely enjoy this, but even if you're not, I'd still consider checking it out. I showed this movie to my parents, and they're only loose Sonic fans, and even they got a kick out of it. Anyway, if you disagree or agree with anything I've said, let me know right down there in the comments below. Also be sure to like and subscribe. This is GNB Productions, and take care.